So you've probably heard of the Bermuda Triangle, but have you heard of the Alaskan Triangle? Believe it or not, the lesser-known Alaskan Triangle is home to far more unexplained disappearances due to treacherous terrain, electromagnetic anomalies, hidden pyramids or aliens, or perhaps just something in the air that happens to drive people mad. Whatever it may be, here are the top 10 disappearances in the Alaskan Triangle that remain unsolved to this day. First on the list, we have the 1950 disappearance of a United States Air Force troop plane, a Douglas C-54 Skymaster carrying 44 passengers and a nuclear warhead. What started off as a regular flight from an Air Force base in Alaska to one in Manitoba turned into a years-long mystery that still perplexes the minds of both military personnel and civilians alike. When the flight took off, the pilots were instructed to keep in contact with the Alaskan base, providing status updates via radio at every 30-minute mark, which they did until they didn't. The last report the base received was that while there was some frost forming on the wings, a completely normal occurrence when flying in cold weather, everything was going smoothly. The radio silence that followed was quickly accompanied by a large search party consisting of both ground and aerial efforts, but no one and nothing was ever recovered. The Douglas was an incredibly large plane, so for it to just simply vanish without a trace has continued to baffle many minds to this day. Now, if you've even just scratched the surface of the Alaskan Triangle's many mysterious mishaps, I guarantee you've heard about the disappearance of Hale Boggs and Nick Begich. If you haven't, you're about to, and if you have, stick around because you might learn something new. On October 16th of 1972, the United States representatives of the Democratic Party, along with one assistant and a pilot, set off on a campaign trip to Alaska, during which they would be forced to test their luck with the Alaskan Triangle. Any goodbyes or see you soons shared with friends or loved ones prior to takeoff would have been the last anyone would receive from any of the men. As you've probably guessed, they never made it to their destination. Not only that, but the men along with the aircraft completely vanished. Many search parties canvassed the area, a charge led by the United States government, who suspected a possible assassination of the men, but no trace of either plane nor passengers were ever found. However, something else might have been. Which of course brings us to our next point. You guys know I love a good segue. The Dark Pyramid, as it's called, was discovered among the grounds in which frenzied groups frantically searched for Boggs and Begich. Well, its presence was discovered by land surveyors who had used a ground-penetrating radar in an attempt to locate the lost plane. While no such aircraft turned up, something did. Something big and buried far beneath the snow was registering on the men's equipment, and it appeared to be pyramid-shaped. It was getting dark, so the men decided to call it for the night, but when they returned to the same place the next day, their findings shocked them. They found nothing. Not a single trace of the gigantic structure they had found less than just 24 hours before. And all of a sudden, their participation in the search was over. While some believe these men to be complete nut jobs, either seeing things or misreading their tools, many believe they got it absolutely right. Not only that, but some people even argue that the reason they were unable to find it the next day is because the American government messed with the electromagnetics of the area, rendering the equipment useless in an attempt to keep the pyramid hidden. Speculation as to what the structure might be used for include secret government testing, a United States alien base, and even a massive power source. Could this mysterious find be the source of Alaska's long-standing dark streak of missing persons? Let us know what you think in the comments. Moving into individual disappearances, we have missing person Thomas Anthony Nuzzi, who was reported missing on June 19th of 2001. Nuzzi was a traveling nurse whose main purpose in life was helping people, and at the time of his disappearance, he had been working in Bethel, Maine, but was staying in Anchorage, Alaska. He was last seen on video surveillance purchasing snacks and a pack of cigarettes accompanied by an unknown woman. After Nuzzi's disappearance, a search for the man's whereabouts began, in which they questioned the housekeepers at the motel where he was staying. And the housekeepers revealed that during their rounds, they had in fact seen a strange man and woman in Nuzzi's room. We're unaware if this was the same woman that had been caught with him at the gas station on the security camera. Along with the information provided by the housekeepers, Nuzzi's bike was also discovered near the motel outside of his storage unit, and his Jeep about 12 miles out of town. Not much else is known, but some speculate that the woman with Nuzzi at the gas station was partners with the man at the motel, believing that the two forced Nuzzi to empty his storage unit of its valuables and then drove his Jeep away from the scene of the crime. But perhaps he was simply just helping a young couple with an injury. He was a nurse after all. But neither reason really lends any explanation as to what happened to Nuzzi himself though, so I guess I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. And next on the list we have Frank Minano, an expert on sustainable living, hunting, and Alaskan culture, whose disappearance shocked the small town of Minano, which is located directly in the center of the Alaskan Triangle. Frank was 69 when he was reported missing on August 17th of 2020 by his family after they believed him to have gotten lost in the woods. Authorities, aware of Frank's talents, believe that he must have taken shelter in a nearby cabin after becoming turned around in the night. A search party was sent out to canvass the area with high hopes for the man's safe return. However, disappointment and dismay began to sink in after days of searching resulted in not one single indication of Frank's whereabouts. There is not much else that is known about this story other than the fact that 4 years later Frank still remains missing and the tragedy remains a mystery. Next on the list we have Shanna Oman, yet another disappearance in which honestly not much is known. The woman went missing on June 3rd of 2019 after spending time at a friend's house in Fairbanks, Alaska. According to the friend, after hanging out they had dropped her off at Nico River, a short walk from where Oman had lived. They assumed nothing of it until several hours later when Oman's roommate called the friend saying that she had never returned home. Scared and confused, they called the police, who quickly put together a search party to comb the area in which Shanna had last been seen, but after much effort they were ultimately unsuccessful. No other information has been released about the ongoing missing persons case, but as with all the names on this list, we are still hoping for a happy ending. Next up we have Leonard Lane, a World War II veteran who at the time of his disappearance on July 4th of 1995 was 73 years old. Lane, who had a very distinct limp due to injuries obtained during the war, had decided to take a walk after a local parade in the town of Fairbanks, Alaska. He went out into the woods of the Alaskan Triangle alone, a mistake which presumably would end up costing him his life. Although efforts were made to locate the man, he was never found, and in 1997, 2 years after his disappearance, Leonard Lane was declared legally dead. However, the case remains unsolved. And starting off our final three, we have Jael Tiara Hamblen, a mother of one who went missing on October 11th of 2014. That evening, Jael and her roommate Kendra had gone out to dinner. When they returned home, Kendra went to bed, but Jael decided that she wasn't tired, and instead texted one of her male friends around 1 a.m. asking him if he would like to get together. And at 3 a.m. she sent a text to an unknown man. When Kendra woke up the next morning, she sent Jael a text, and when Jael didn't text back, Kendra decided to knock on her door to check on her, but she was gone. After not hearing from her all day, Kendra began to worry and called Jael's mother, who reported her missing to police on October 14th of 2024. Despite efforts, no trace of Jael was found until 5 months later, when her purse, containing her cell phone, social security number, and ID, was discovered by hikers buried in the snow. Her mother maintains that Jael would not have left her purse behind willingly, nor would she have abandoned her son. While the case remains unsolved, foul play is the most likely cause of this woman's disappearance. Next on the list we have Alan Foster, who went missing on September 9th of 2013 during a solo flight over the Alaskan Triangle while piloting a Piper 32-260 aircraft. After fueling up, Foster headed straight for the airspace above the infamous Alaskan Triangle and informed the region's flight service via radio that he had planned to touch down at Cordova Airport, a destination which would later prove to be out of reach for the flyer. Just 18 minutes after takeoff, the airport's radar showed Alan Foster's aircraft descending almost 1,100 feet at a rapid pace before disappearing completely. Neither Alan nor his plane were ever discovered despite multiple search efforts for the two. No one is quite sure what happened here, but many are hesitant to chalk it up to either operator or mechanical error, as the plane was in perfect working condition and Alan was an expert flyer, with over 9,700 hours of airtime in various planes. The only real conclusion made regarding Alan's disappearance is that it just doesn't make any sense. And finally, we have Paul Michael LeMaitre, a 65-year-old marathoner who went missing in the Alaskan Triangle on June 4th of 2012. That year, Paul had decided to compete in the Mount Marathon race for the first time and had trained accordingly leading up to the day. The race took off without a hitch as competitors took off on their 26.2-mile run, 3.5 miles of which would consist of participants navigating through the creeks and trees of the Alaskan mountain. Paul was last seen at the home stretch just 200 meters from the finish line, and he was confirmed to be fully cognizant by a steward monitoring participants and verbally confirming bib numbers, an interaction which would become the last known record of Paul Michael. After speaking with the steward, Paul began began his short descent to the finish line, but unfortunately he never made it as he suddenly disappeared without a single trace, never to be seen again. Despite the efforts of mountain rescue experts, state troopers, and search dogs, no trace of Paul was ever found. And to this day, his disappearance in the Alaskan Triangle remains a complete mystery. Alright you guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, I hope you are all being safe out there. I've been your host, Hannah Thompson, and I will see you in the next video.